the one thing we're crazy about in this school is innovation. Okay? I mean, not just innovation in for-profit business, but I mean innovation in anything, whether you're working in the government, you're working in an NGO, you're working in a charitable foundation, you have a for-profit company, not-for-profit company, manufacturing, banking, doesn't matter. We're all about innovation. Innovation means taking science and technology and business and working with them holistically, all as one thing. So the message you're going to hear as we talk today is you can't go forward successfully. Is that okay, Sloan? Okay. You cannot go forward successfully in this world if you only know science, or you only know engineering innovation, IT innovation, or you only know business. You have to know all of them. Okay, it's my great privilege to be associated with this university. I'm a private business person. I have a number of companies in Ukraine. I've been doing business here for more than 20 years. Okay, so you can go anywhere in the world and do a successful, honest business. Doesn't matter, okay? Because it doesn't matter where you are, it matters who you are, okay? So Ukraine is a difficult business environment, but it's been fine with me. Now, I'm also an academic, and I have this really cool title. I get to be special advisor to the rector. I don't quite know what that means, but that's a cool title. All right, seriously now, technology, right? Science, technology, business, they're one thing, just one thing. So don't say to somebody, I'm a business student, I'm an engineering student. You gotta say, I'm a student of innovation, okay? Let me give you an example. Think this will work? Okay, all right, 1976, okay? This, because think about this, we use these funny words that really don't mean anything anymore. High tech, low tech, new tech, old tech, doesn't mean anything. Here's a couple examples. In 1976, the slide rule, that was low tech. Now that had been around for, I don't know how many decades or centuries. Every engineer in the world used the slide rule. Does anybody here know how to use a slide rule? I didn't think so. And I don't either. I'm a little older than you. But you know, when I was in college in 1976, nobody used a slide rule. What the heck is that? Our parents used slide rule. We used this super high-tech device. And in 1976, that was super high-tech. This is the original Texas Instruments. Company doesn't exist anymore. Okay, hold that thought, right? Stand still in July, okay? Texas Instruments in their day was the Apple or the Microsoft, right? And they came out with this handheld calculator, which we were all required to buy as students. And in today's dollars, it was like buying a laptop computer. So we were really unhappy. And look what it did. I mean, it did square roots and exponentials. That's all it did. But it was a massive technological improvement over that guy. Okay? Now, remember, slide rule had been around for forever. Okay? Now, 5 years. Just jump 5 years to the future. Okay? There's no handheld calculator anymore. It lasted about 5. Now you can still buy one. You open up a bank account, they give you like a little, right? But nobody. We shifted over very quickly to desktop computers. But by our standards, these are pretty big old clunky things. You know, they had those big old monitors, right? And those big giant floppy disks that you were always folding and cracking. Okay, and this is exactly the computer I had as a research supervisor in those days. Got out of college, went to work for the government, and started supervising an international research program. So because I was a supervisor, I got 2 disk drives, right? In a bigger desk. Okay, you know how to go. Now, of course, this is low tech. It's always been low tech. But look, he's got a pencil. Right? You have a pen and a pencil are the same thing. So this is low tech, but it's never gone away, has it? It's never gone away because it fulfills a purpose. It has a function, right? Student has a job to be done. That's taking notes. Well, still does it. Okay? Now, hey, where'd you go? Okay, that's too bad. Okay, I used to have a picture in there. I thought I did. So I'm going to tell you about it. I used to have a pic slide in there. I got too many versions of this. And it was of today. And it shows like an iPhone. Now, we could all agree that an iPhone 10 is high tech, right? I mean, it is. We agree if you can run the planet with one iPhone. But another high-tech item, which is selling for large amounts of money, is a phonograph with the old wax records. Wait a minute, those things went out of style decades ago. We had 8-track tapes, 4-track tapes, cassette tapes, right? Okay, we have Spotify and iTunes, but yet, you go, and if you want to spend a lot of money, you can go retro and buy one of these phonographs with the needle and the record. Well, it's super low tech, but it's come back because it fills a special little market niche. People who are really crazy about music, but not so crazy about timeliness. People who are really crazy about music want to spend money, a lot of money, on those phonograph records. So, okay, so is a phonograph new tech or high tech? Well, it's irrelevant, right? It's tech, and it sells for a lot of money. You can spend as much money buying an old phonograph with a needle as you can buying an iPhone, right? Indisputably, one's old tech, one's new tech, but they're both high tech, and they both command a lot of money because they're filling a niche in the market for what people want, for what people need. Next time I talk to somebody about this, I'll put that slide in there. Okay, last little bit of history. We used to, this is going to give you an idea of how radically the world economy has changed. Radically, radically. When I think back to when I was in college and I think of the kind of work I do today and the tools I used to do the work, it's like something out of a science fiction movie. I can't believe it. It used to be that we would, economists, okay, I get to be one of those too, we would classify labor as agriculture, right, agricultural labor, manufacturing labor, or we'd say skilled or unskilled. Those were actually good categories in the old days when economies everywhere in the world were much, much more simple. When basically you had agriculture and basically you had manufacturing. Then you had people with high skills and people with low skills. And that's how governments kept their data, and that's how economists did their studies. Nobody would use these terms today, okay? And I'll show you why. Today, if you want to think about labor, the future of work, the future of your work, I mean, me too, but it's too bad for you, you're going to have to work a lot longer going forward than me. If you think seriously about the future of work, the future of your work, this is how you have to think about labor today, okay? These three categories. You can see what they are. Routine production, in-person services, those might be self-explanatory, and then symbolic analysts. Every one of you is a symbolic analyst, okay? And I'm going to tell you what all that means. Maybe we'll even find that slide of the iPhone. Okay, when we say routine production, okay, now think about this. When we say routine production, we're talking such industries as, such jobs as, you know, manufacturing, construction, transportation. But wait a minute. These are both very highly skilled as well as poorly skilled. If you are an airline pilot flying an Airbus A380, 350 people from Kiev to America, you are a really super highly skilled person. I hope if you're my pilot, okay? You're a really super highly skilled person. But your job is routine production, okay? You're just flying the plane, you're taking off, you're flying, you're landing, you're taking a plane. It's routine. It's routine that requires high skills, but it's still routine, okay? A lot of jobs, if you think about it, in manufacturing and construction, if you're on an assembly line, okay? You know, like welding parts to a car as it comes down the line, routine production. You know, construction, a lot of construction work is routine. It can be highly skilled, it can be low skilled, but the key is that it's routine. And anything that's routine is very highly probably going to be either augmented or completely replaced by automation, right? AI, artificial intelligence, algorithms, robots, okay? Anything, and we're seeing this already, right? All the research into self-driving cars. Actually, airplanes are mostly not flown by the pilots. The pilots take off, right? Gets up there, they put on the autopilot, and then they take over. So they're not like losing their job as pilots. The technology, the automation, all the AI there, it is augmenting the job. It's making them do it better and safer, because the pilots can kind of relax while the plane's flying, okay? So think about that. Think about routine production. And now there's this one. And again, these jobs can be highly skilled or poorly skilled, okay? But these are the kind of jobs you can't do unless you get right into somebody's face, all right? You can't do this over the internet. Maids, barbers, right? You can't cut someone's hair unless you physically touch their head. You can't clean a hotel room or someone's apartment unless you're physically there, okay? Taxi drivers, they can't drive you virtually. You can make a virtual reservation with Hooplan, but at some point, the taxi driver, the physical person, the physical car has to put your physical body in there and take you. So these are what we mean by in person sort of. Same with doctors and teachers. Okay, I mean, a doctor can't take out your appendix unless they can put their hands, unfortunately, on your appendix. And same thing with teachers. We do have distance learning, okay? So there is some augmentation there, but still, I can't talk to you and talk to distance learning students if I'm sitting outside. I mean, I still have to like be I have to be either in the face of the camera or in the face of the students, or I can't do my job. Same thing with home repair, car repair. Someone can't fix your broken refrigerator, repair your roof, fix your car without putting their hands on it. And again, some of these are very highly skilled. I like to think teachers are very highly skilled, okay? Some students may not agree, but I think teachers are very highly skilled. And in fact, you just go try to repair a new car. Just try it, okay? I mean, we can all repair Ladas and old Tavria Novas, but nobody repairs a new car unless they're very highly skilled, okay? And here's the last category before we get to all the sad and bad news make you all worried about your futures. This is what you guys are. Now, a symbolic, and by the way, everybody gets copies of these, so you don't have to take the exact notes. You can put down your thoughts. Everybody gets copies of these. All right? Information has no value unless everybody has it. Because every time I do any kind of seminars at the school, somebody always comes up and tells me something to make it better. Well, what about this? And I think, well, gee, that's smart, so I'll add that. Okay, think about this. If you're an accountant, I mean, unless you're using an abacus, okay? If you're an accountant, what are you doing? You're earning money by manipulating symbols. You go on into, for example, to an Excel spreadsheet, right? And you put a symbol in B12, and you put a formula, and you put a macro, and the end result is you have a balance sheet or an income statement, or if you're a financial analyst, you have a cash flow projection. But all you're doing is manipulating symbols. Now, the symbols start in your brain, okay? Your brain is manipulating the symbols, and you're using some computer program, it could be really sophisticated big data analytics, or it could be kind of a standard spreadsheet. But you're taking these symbols that you're manipulating in your brain, and you're manipulating the symbols, okay, in the computer. Now you could print it, okay, fine. So now you have manipulated symbols on a piece of paper. But you're manipulating symbols. It's the same thing. Lawyers manipulate words, okay? they think, oh, I need to write the contract this way so I can cheat my client. And then everybody likes to tease life. And then they use a word processor, but they're manipulating symbols. These symbols look like words, and the accountant symbols look like numbers. Everybody does this. I have a full service appraisal firm here in Ukraine. Okay, we do lots of valuation, huge enterprises. Okay, right? Governments, private, huge enterprises, and everything from agribusiness, manufacturing. And we're manipulating data. We're taking technical data, financial data, and we're massaging it and calculating and manipulating it. Okay, and on and on and on it goes. Architects now, they're using CAD cams, right? They're using all these like cool 3D computer programs to design things. Scientists now have 3D augmented reality programs where they can take a protein and put in all the exact chemical structure, thank you, for the protein, and then the program will turn it up and make it a 3D molecule, all right? So this is the kind of labor, right? It's routine, it's in person, it's symbolic. Here comes the sort of good news and bad news. And remember, every change has people who kind of benefit and has people who kind of lose. And what society has to do collectively is we have to make sure that somehow everybody wins, okay? And so if you're kind of left behind because your job got automated, we have to come as a society and say we're gonna help with retraining and new jobs, and okay. And all governments do a bad job, but that's what we need to do, okay? All right, if you're in routine production, you are in a high risk of losing your job. Not that the job is going to go away. We're always going to need metal pieces to be welded together to have a car. We're always going to need an airplane to be driven, a bus to be driven. But so the job will stay, but the number of people employed in that particular job category is going to shrink. Okay? Very few jobs are going to be eliminated. Well, we don't need airline pilots anymore. Yeah, we do. We just don't need as many. Okay? All right. Okay. So we don't need factory. Well, we do need factory workers. We need a different type of factory worker, and I'm going to get to that. So, but these are high risk of being automated, of being reduced, but not necessarily eliminated. There's some moderate risk here, okay? A lot of, services. If I go to a clothing store, some nice man or woman will come and help me pick out some clothes, and I get to try them on. Okay, well that's an in-person service, but man, retail service jobs are getting eliminated like crazy because of, Amazon and all the online shopping, okay? So, and too bad for me, too bad for you, there's a moderate to even high risk that a lot of these purely professional, very highly skilled jobs, you got to spend a lot of money to learn and a lot of time and a lot of effort, and some of these are at moderate or even high risk of being eliminated, right? I mean, we're looking now at metros, buses that will be fully automated. You won't have a driver. Well, okay. We're looking, well that would be more back up here, but we're looking at, I'll give you an example from my profession. If you look worldwide at the appraisal industry, these are people that'll put a value on your business, put a value on your building, put a value on your apartment. The number of these is shrinking radically worldwide. Everywhere, Ukrainian-American, doesn't matter. Because with big data and big data analytics, you can do valuation, including business valuation. You can do them faster and better and cheaper than have a human being do it. So you're seeing a lot of really smart appraisers. It takes a lot of education training to be an appraiser. And those jobs are shrinking, okay? So, before anyone suffers an anxiety attack, let me show you all the good news. But you've got to keep this in mind, right? What all this says is, don't sit still and think, oh, I'm going to get a job,
and then 30 years from now, I'm gonna retire. Okay, well, first of all, no one in here is gonna have just one job in their life. I mean, even me, I've had at least 4 or 5 different careers. I mean, radically different careers, from big corporations to big government to big academia to private businesses. I mean, in different countries. I've lived and worked in 30, 40 countries. So even I've had to be like the hamster on the wheel, running. Oh man, you guys are gonna have to do the same thing. But it's not bad news. It just means we're in a different economy, okay? So, this is the biggest takeaway for today, right? This is the big takeaway. This is the future of work. And actually, I gotta get rid of that. It's not the future of work, it's the today of work. And I'll give you a personal example. Okay, continually upskilled, okay, right? And I mean continually throughout your entire life. You have to be continually upskilling yourself, because everything you know today is going to be out of date very quickly. It doesn't mean you have to be out of date, it just means you have to constantly be upskilling. No choice, mandatory, okay? And this is something relatively new in the last, say, 10, 20 years or so, multi-skilled, okay? You can't just do one thing anymore, right? Yeah, it's great to be a specialist in something, but you have to have what I call a working knowledge of other professions, other disciplines, and also, before I get to a perfect example, multidisciplinary, interconnected. Okay, multidisciplinary means you can't just know accounting. Okay, you have to also know marketing and finance. But you also, if you're going to go to work in any kind of manufacturing, it's going to be high-tech manufacturing now, right? Laser printers and laser scanners, and so you've got to educate yourself, multi-skilled. You got to know something about those engineering fields. You can't work in the marketing department of a cell phone company if you actually don't know anything about a cell phone. I don't mean how to push an icon. I mean, you actually don't understand the technology of how is it produced and what does it do and how does it do it and why does it do it. And that requires getting out of, marketing and business and getting into some engineering and into some IT, okay? Gotta be, and interconnected means that you can't think of yourself as saying, well, I'm involved in business. No, you're involved simultaneously in science, innovation, business, okay? Right? All together, just all together, okay? And you have to understand that. Now, you don't have to go out and get 300 degrees, okay? And you have to be versatile and adaptable, okay? Right? Versatile meaning you actually know how to do more than one thing, and you're adaptable, right? The economy changes, you change. The market changes, you change. Change or die, right? All right, I'll give you an example from my own life. So I come out of graduate school, and I've got these degrees in economics, and I specialized in environmental economics back in the day when nobody knew what that meant. So environmental economics and, international finance, international trade and finance, things like that. And then when I got hired by the US federal government, they said, congratulations, you get to be a supervisory economist of a group of people. It was 15, and through time it grew to about 50, 60 in the program. So congratulations, you get to be a supervisory economist, and what you're going to do for the government, mainly for the Defense Department, the intelligence agencies, is you're going to do this international, research on the minerals industries of the world. Because the Defense Department tells you that they're worried about that. So you're going to go out, you're going to study platinum and chromium and vanadium, and they had a list of 32 of these, most of which I didn't even recognize. Okay, I mean, I was doing modeling of fish populations, and now I got my boss talking about chromium and manganese, and okay, And who's on my team? Seriously, I've got geologists, mining engineers, metallurgical engineers, other economists. So how am I going to do this job? No problem. I went out and started getting myself multi-skilled and multidisciplinary. I did not become a geologist, mining engineer, metallurgical engineer, but I found everything I could find. Sadly, we didn't have the internet then, so I found every textbook and every article, and I went over to the famous Colorado, I was in Colorado, the School of Mines, and I sat in the back of the room and listened to lectures and read and talked to people, and I developed a working knowledge of geology, mining engineering, metallurgical engineering, and geology important to the mining industry. So now I had a working knowledge. So now I could actually communicate intelligently and effectively with my research colleagues, and I could organize things, and I could understand the kind of data and analytics they brought me from their discipline. And because I paid a lot of attention to being interconnected and multi-skilled, I was able to bring it together very effectively. So when we would provide analytic reports for the government, we would deal with the issues of geology and engineering and processing and economics all at the same, global supply chains. We could deal with that in a holistic way. Okay, so that's how I prospered in the job. If I had just sat there and said, well, I'm an economist, I want to do economics, well, I don't know, they probably would have sent me somewhere else. So this is how you do this, okay? Anything you're doing, you're going to start your own business, you're going to go to work for a bank, you're going to go to work for a company, a government, that's cool. Go work anywhere you want, do anything you want. But every time you bump up into something new, just say, okay, I'm going to develop a working knowledge of that new thing. Enough so that I understand, I can communicate intelligently and effectively, but I'm not going to be, okay, a programmer. I'm not going to be a biologist, okay? But I have to understand biology or I can't work in a pharmaceutical. How do I work in a pharmaceutical company as a CEO, a CFO, marketing, if I don't understand where do pharmaceuticals come from? Right? There's biology and chemistry there, so you got to understand that. All right. This is something, what, 15 years old max, the gig economy. This is something that didn't used to exist. Some people say it's a blessing, some people say it's a curse. In reality, it's both. Depends on who you are. I know happy Uber drivers, I know unhappy Uber drivers, okay? But this is the kind of work that's coming up all the time now, and it affects everybody, from the lowest skilled to the highest skilled. It's this on-call work, okay, where you wait, you go onto a program like in America, we call it TaskRabbit. There's a million of these programs, and there'll be these little jobs, half hour here, 1 hour there, one day, and you put in a bid and say, I'll do that for this much money, okay. So we're getting this kind of temporary work, freelancers. It used to be freelancers were only journalists who ran around and wrote an article and tried to publish it. You have freelancers now that are women with PhDs in architecture, but they're freelancers. They take a single contract to work on a single project, okay? So this is something that we won't delve into now, but it's a huge, huge subject. And this data is already a little out of date. I got to update this. Probably the most recent data is in the version with that picture of that has the Apple phone in it. But look, don't worry about that. Economics is about trends. So just 10 years in America, you've got something like 60% of net job growth, right? Because people get jobs, people lose jobs. If more people get than lose, that's net. 60% of net job growth is in these kinds of categories. It's creating a lot of social problems, which governments are very slow to respond to. Everybody's government does a very bad job of dealing with these issues, okay? Because, the economies move fast, governments move slow. It's been that way for thousands of years. But just keep in mind that this is something you may find that, the best way you may find for your particular situation the best way to be employed is to be self-employed and be a freelancer that works just on a contract, project to project to project. There's about 20 brilliant people I know in Ukraine who work like that. They come to work with me. I'll get a project to appraise 100,000 assets of the Ukrainian state oil company, right, Ukr-Nafta, right? Then I go and I hire this guy on a contract because he's an expert in the valuation of oil field equipment, okay? I have a working knowledge of oil field equipment, but I can't look at oil field equipment and determine, accurately enough its technical and economic value, okay? And he'll come to work, and when the project's over, he goes away, and he goes to work somewhere else, okay? All right, here's the fear. Now we get to the really fun part, okay? And no one should worry, again, no one should worry about losing their job. I mean, I've lost entire industries I've lost entire careers in my life, and look, I'm still here. I'm doing okay. All right? So, but if you want to say, well, what are the industries of the future? This is not all of them, but I was able to come up with this list when I did this in probably 5 minutes, because it's really, these are some really obvious candidates for industries of the future. Now, you can read the list, and what I'm going to point out, and again, everybody gets to go on to Moodle and look at this. When you're looking at the list, what I'm going to point out is the following. Look for all the synergy. Look for all the interconnectedness, right? Look for all the interconnectedness. When we talk about aerospace or robotics, we're talking about advanced materials simultaneously. Okay, robots aren't made out of big clunky old steel, okay? So we're talking about advanced, and same with aerospace, right? You don't build an Antonov cargo plane or an American F-35 out of steel. You build it out of this super advanced, super alloys that cost like $1 million for a kilogram of this stuff, And that's all advanced manufacturing. And you can't talk robotics without talking AI, okay? Because who's controlling the robots? Well, AI is, right? Big data analytics, okay? A lot of sensors. They got sensors everywhere, 1 million of them in a factory, feeding that data real time to some platform that's churning it out, and it's monitoring the robots so that they weld the piece on the car. They don't weld the robot next to them, okay? And now think about this, factory workers. There are less factory workers everywhere in the world than there used to be, sure, of course. But the people who have jobs in factories, okay, especially in, say, Europe, North America, these are very highly skilled jobs, people making bucket loads of money. Because if I go get a job in a factory, and I'm the guy who has to repair and maintain and monitor the robots, well, I'm a really highly skilled professional guy, and I can make a lot of money. I can make $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year doing that. Or I can be the guy, the girl, the geek who sits down and does all the AI programming that's controlling the robots. So these factory jobs are there. They're just, there's fewer of them. They're much higher skilled, and they're paid a lot more money. Okay. In America, you hear this funny comment, oh, America doesn't produce any, there's no manufacturing in America. Well, it is true that 70% of our economy now is intellectual property, it's service. We lead the world in innovation, patenting, and new products. There's a reason why we have the iPhone and Russia doesn't, okay? And why China copied it, okay? All right. But we still have a vibrant manufacturing. It's just that it's smaller in scope, smaller in scale, less people employed. But instead of producing, basic steel, we produce super alloys that go into jet aircraft. Okay, so you produce less, but you sell it for a much higher price. So we have less people, but actually more profit. Our manufacturing sectors, metallurgical, are more profitable today than they were in the 1950s when we dominated the world steel industry, because that stuff had a profit margin like that. This is Ukraine's problem, produces a lot of metals, but profit margins like that. Today, your profit margin on metal products can be like that. All right, so again, think of the, okay, information technology, think of the linkages with education. Again, all this, anything to do with health and medicine, okay, you got virtual reality, like a doctor can be 1,000 miles away now from a patient and be consulting another doctor because they can see in real time and they can see the patient's body in 3D. There are more than 250,000 cell phone apps in the world that deal with health and personalized medicine, right? You know, like everything from an app that counts how many steps you walk, how many calories you're burning, all the way up to really super sophisticated life and death stuff, like an app that is tied to a little chip that a diabetic will put in their arm. The little chip will measure thank you. My brain was stuck. Glucose, measures the glucose level 24/7, communicates to the app, which communicates to the doctor, but is not communicating to the doctor, it's communicating to a program that a doctor's assistant, who is now a very highly trained, statistician, etc. Okay, and so these cell phone apps have been enormously beneficial for the world. You don't have to go to the office. People don't stroke out and then you have to send the ambulance because So but there's like more than 250,000 of these because they're in different languages and they're in different contexts. Okay, so again, think of entertainment without a lot of virtual reality, right? I mean, think of going to watch Avatar, right? It was in 3D, right? Okay, so where you guys will rise in your corporations or your governments or succeed with your own businesses, that's going to happen if you are able to see these synergistic linkages and the rest of the market does not see those linkages, okay? Uber's, I'm going to use Uber as an example, but Uber today has a lot of problems. Okay, they may even not exist pretty soon. But when you go back to when Uber was created, the reason Uber became instantly, overnight, a multi-billion-dollar company is they saw an interconnection, a synergy. Because they said, look, human beings have been moving themselves from point A to point B for what? A few million years, right? Okay, but what they did is they said, there's a need that is not being met in the market for human transportation. It is the on-demand, right now, my own car, right here, right now, to take me to some place, and I don't have to carry cash. The taxi driver doesn't have to have cash. I don't have to worry about he doesn't have to worry about having cash. I know exactly in advance how much it's going to cost. I know exactly who is that person's car I'm stepping into, right? Because I can see all the reviews, okay? And I see how many trips this person's taken. So all of the hassle and anxiety, because you used to have to stand there, wave at a taxi, okay? All right? Wave at a taxi. And then the taxi says, I don't like the look of you, because after all, no, you're young and it's 2 in the morning and maybe I don't want that guy. So they saw this unmet need in the market and they came up first with an efficiency innovation because they created the Uber platform, which is a really, really sophisticated piece of IT, big data analytics. And they created a supply chain so they can link up drivers with people, with places. And once they got all that in place, immediately they became billionaires overnight because this is what people want. People like on-demand. I had to do that last night. There was some traffic catastrophe and my staff guy couldn't come pick me up at the airport. And I just flew in last night from Istanbul. Well, what did I do? Okay. Well, I went out there and I found, I can't remember if it was Uklon or Uber, I got both. And I just went and boom, in 5 minutes and I'm there, okay. And try to do that with a regular taxi. And first of all, the regular taxi is going to cost a lot more, and that's their problem. They're not competing, okay? That's their problem. Don't cry for me, Argentina. Okay, notice this was sort of like industries, and then these are kind of like applications within industry, okay? And we hear a lot about this, sensors and IT. Think of the synergies. Sensors, Internet of Things, right? Internet of Things, which are sensors about everything and everywhere. We're putting in some American cities now, we put sensors into curbs. You know, a curb, you got a street, you got a sidewalk, and then, okay, and then that piece where you scuff your tire when you park, that's the curb. And we're putting these, hey, all right. Must have been a hard, don't worry, I won't teach you. Yes, I will. It'll be okay. Okay. Well, you'll get these slides. A lot of municipalities in America now are putting these sensors every 3-4 meters into curb so that they can get this massive amount of big data, put it in their their sophisticated big data platform, figure out the whole parking situation so they can better regulate. Here is only cars, there is only trucks. Here only from 5 to 7 in the morning, and here only an hour, but over here 3 hours. Here it's free, here you pay money. How do you pay money? Oh, well, we have apps now, so you can pay the city. How do you know how much to pay? Well, you push the app reads the sensor, and it says, okay, you're in a zone where you can park for 1 hour for $5, because parking in America is expensive. And then boom, it's all charged, and then goes to your bank account, right? This is really cool stuff here. But again, but these are physical things. So there's a connection here with manufacturing, okay? If this is being used by the city of Kiev, and they're moving slowly in that direction, they've done some cool smart city stuff in Kiev, some really cool smart city stuff in Kiev. Like the little cell phone app now that lets you go buses, metro, right? Okay, well, that's efficient. But see, somebody's got to manufacture this. If it's being used by a city to manage traffic, then it's got a lot of smart city applications. This is a big area for innovation, right? I mean, we got, what, 70% of the world's going to or is living in cities. Synthetic biology, right? I mean, like literal, we're all becoming like cyborgs. That's good to an extent. Well, but again, synthetic biology ties in with manufacturing, it ties in with genetic engineering. So there's a, I mean, I'm telling you, if you want to look at like an economist, big trends, there's two things that the world has to worry about going forward. Okay, I mean, climate change is a big macro issue. Okay, that's a big macro issue. That's like saying, well, we have to breathe. Okay, so we can put that aside. It's rather self-evidently, obviously important. But as subsets, it's food and it's energy. If we're going to go to 10 billion people on the planet without destroying the planet, we have to figure out how to provide food and energy. Human beings need two things to survive. I mean, you can go sleep under a tree if you have to, but food and energy. You gotta have food, gotta have energy. Okay, food and energy. All right. And if we don't innovate like crazy into how to do more food, more energy, faster, cheaper, healthier, better, healthier for the environment, healthier for people, we're in big trouble. So you're going to see a lot of innovation in that. That's why we concentrate here too on sustainability. Okay, all right. Every time sustainability means you're doing something that's feasible, but it's sustainable. Not just sustainable in terms of making a profit, it's sustainable in terms of being like a circular economy. It's sustainable in terms of, I can do this forever without destroying the planet. Wind energy is sustainable. Coal energy is not sustainable. It's not sustainable economically. Coal mines are closing because even in places like India and China, they're closing hundreds of coal mines because they're not profitable. And of course, coal mines destroy the earth. So coal is not a sustainable business. Wind energy is a sustainable business, socially, environmentally, technologically, okay, that's the thing. So again, as you're upskilling through your lives constantly, as you're multi-skilling, right, as you're being really adaptable and really versatile, you got to keep your brain moving, light speed, man, so you can be looking for innovations within these areas. Again, innovations doesn't matter. You're working at a company, you're creating your own company, right? We tend to have too narrow of a focus sometimes. Oh, well, innovation's all about a startup company. No, it isn't. Look, if I'm a chocolate company, like Roche, iconic brand, that's not a political statement. It's an iconic brand. It happens to be a superbly managed and highly profitable company, okay? Which is why Nestle's been trying to buy it for a long, long time. When they come out with a new chocolate product, well, we used to have, like a little piece of chocolate that was apricot flavored. Now we have a little piece of chocolate that's cherry flavored. That's innovation, okay? Now it's not the kind of innovation that disrupts markets. It doesn't create new markets, okay? Somebody doesn't say, I'll never eat chocolate. Oh, well, now that you have cherry chocolate, okay, now I'll eat it. No, it's not like that, but it is innovation, okay? So this is where you'll prosper, working for a government, for a company, for yourself, because you got your brain working there, right? Keep your brain working. Otherwise, just stop. Okay, think about this. What? This is not some feel-good, okay? It's not like a church sermon, okay? This is not feel-good. This is hard-nosed, as we say in America, business and economics. You want to make money in business? You have to think about a desired outcome. A desired outcome for who? You? No. Why do most startup companies fail? Because they're started by engineers. Engineers fall in love, IT people, they fall in love with their product. Look, I can push this button and this happens. That's so cool. Everybody should buy it. No, nobody buys it. Why does nobody buy it? Because it doesn't solve a problem that human beings have. Think of Uber. They solved a problem that human beings have. How do I get a cab, at 2 in the morning when I'm a young guy that scares the cab drivers? Okay, you wouldn't, okay? But we all know who would, okay? So you have to think, what is a desired outcome for the consumer, the person that's going to buy my product so I can stay in business, or my service, okay? And by the way, there are no products anymore. Think about it. There's no products anymore. There's services, right? A cell phone is not a product. It's just a platform for providing services. So you don't buy the cell phone because you want to have this physical thing. Even though Apple will have really cool designs, you don't buy it just because it's a cool physical thing. It's not a product. It's a device that gives you unlimited access to unlimited services. So then you have to think about, okay, positive change. No one is going to spend their money to buy, I'll go back to the old language, your product or your service, if they're not going to have a positive change in their life and get some desired outcome, okay? So when you think about this is, all of these are working together to create a desired outcome, to create a positive change. Okay, you got to have scientific research, because it's that scientific research that then allows various types of engineers to innovate. And they innovate and create new applications. I don't mean cell phone applications, I mean new applications of anything, everything, okay? But these new applications can't affect a positive change unless they're synergistically tied in to either it's new business, even if it's an old company, unless they're tied into a mechanism that can take this new application and turn it into a new business, right? A new niche within the existing market, a new company, or a new little part of an old company. So these all have to work together, okay? And again, I was teasing engineers, but it's true. This is what happens with engineers. They'll innovate and create something, and then they stand there and they wonder, why doesn't anybody buy it? Well, they don't buy it because you're not giving them a reason to buy it. You love it, they don't love it. Okay? So, all right, let me give you a specific example. What if our desired outcome, this is one of the world's largest industries, right? Pharmaceutical. What if our desired outcome is to create a new drug? So we're you know, one of these humongous pharmaceutical companies, okay? And we have a desired outcome. What's the desire? Let's create a new drug so we can have more money. Okay, fair enough. But what? Not a new drug that maybe people take it and die, like OxyContin. How about, okay, no, seriously, right? This was some really evil people that eventually the American criminal justice system is going to destroy them, okay? Because they created OxyContin. If any of you smoke, I apologize, it's like the cigarette makers, all right? They created a product and they know damn good and well it kills people, they don't care, they make money. So we're not thinking that, we're thinking sustainable, okay? By the way, tobacco's not a sustainable business. If it was, you wouldn't have e-cigarettes, would you? Right? Right? Okay? And Juul is not a sustainable business either. They're going to be regulated and litigated to death. So, okay. So back to this. We want to create a new drug, right? And what's our positive change? Our positive change is better health. That's what we want. If we can create a new pharmaceutical product that improves your health, whatever the problem might be. If we can do that, you'll buy that product. You'll find the money somehow, some way. You'll buy the product. You'll buy it today. You'll buy it tomorrow. You'll buy it for the rest of your life. That's a sustainable business model. So we want to create a new one with better health. Well, here's just part of the process. First of all, if this is going to be, say, a pharmaceutical product, okay? Somebody's got to know the physics and the nanotechnology and the nanobiotechnology. Right? There's a lot of science there, okay? And somebody over here in the engineering box has got to start working with it. They got to work with it, and you've got IT specialists, you got all kinds of super advanced algorithms crunching all kinds of biological data and trying to figure out, you know, how to modify different molecules and build different proteins. And you got a bunch of virtual reality because drug design now is done with 3D virtual reality so they can see, okay? Somebody's got to come down here and innovate on the chemistry and the biology. Because why? Because you have to have a delivery mechanism. Somebody's got to figure out the proper human biology and chemistry. You don't want to say, well, I'm going to give you, I know you have like a little irregular heartbeat, so we're going to develop a new drug to manage that. The first time you take it, you die because, oops, we had the dosage wrong. If only that had been a cow and not a person, okay? So somebody's got to work the chemistry, but then somebody has got to come up with delivery mechanism. Maybe it's a pill, maybe it's a little chip, maybe it's a little chip that you put in, or a pill you swallow, and it slowly releases the medicine over hours or days or weeks or months, okay? So there's lots of different things here. It may be that we do something synthetic because like we literally put a chip. 3D print, you know, you can 3D print kidneys now. We literally have 3D printers that are 3D printing human kidneys, okay? And that's pretty cool because a lot of people need to get a new kidney and you have to wait for somebody else to die or donate one. And now we can 3D print kidneys. But we only got to 3D printing kidneys because of all of this. And if we bring all of this together in a smart way, and this is where business and economics comes in. We got to understand the market. We got to understand the need of consumers. We have to build an innovation plan, a business plan, if you will, a marketing plan, a financial plan, a supply chain plan, in order to allow all of these brilliant engineers and physicists and chemists and the like, in order to get that product to a consumer and get the consumer's money to us, and that's where all of you guys come in, okay? So this is how it works. But notice, nowhere on there does it say finance, accounting, MBA. It doesn't say that. It doesn't mean that what you're learning has no value. It means that business education now is literally the keystone, right, that holds the arch together. It's literally the linchpin, if you will, right? We can have all the best science in the world. Ukraine suffers from this. We can have all the best science in the world. You can have all the best innovation in the world. But if you can't put it into a product and a service that can be profitably delivered to a customer who actually really wants it because it solves a problem, well then what good is the science, right? What good is the innovation? And who gets all this science and innovation to the customer? That's what business and economics is about nowadays. But to do that, you got to know something, working knowledge, got to know something about those guys. All right, I think, by golly, I think you're lucky because I think that's the last slide. Still didn't find that. It's such a cool slide I put together with the iPhones and all right. So we'll do this tomorrow, again, word for word, and I'll bring. No, I won't do that. I won't do that. Look, everybody was saying, how much do we have to pay him not to come tomorrow? It would be, trust me, it'd be a good investment. I can't think of anything worse in life than to listen to some guy talk about the same thing twice. It's like a torture, you know? Okay, I put this up here because this applies directly to students. It applies to me too, we're all students. By the way, when I came over here to literally create Ukraine's valuation industry, and I did, I was one American, 3 Ukrainians. We wrote the law on appraising, we wrote the national, this is all the way back with Kuchma, wrote the law on appraising, wrote the national standards of appraising, established the Ukrainian Society of Appraisers, set up the certification standards and testing to become an appraiser, set up the licensing standards, and then what? Then my company became like the first appraisal company, and we had the first certified appraisers, and we were like first into the market, so there was economic profit. Today there's accounting profit, right? Okay. You don't know the difference between economic profit and accounting profit, look it up. It's powerful, powerful stuff. I knew nothing about the valuation industry. I mean, I was at the University of Colorado teaching finance and economics and other stuff. And the idea came up. Brilliant Ukrainians came and said, oh, I got this idea. Well, okay, so I had to suddenly become an appraiser. So I had to read every book and take all the classes, suddenly go become an appraiser. Because if I didn't become an appraiser, and in that case I sort of like became an appraiser, but okay, because it's not like becoming a doctor. You can become an appraiser in 6 months, you become a doctor, you can say 7 years. But I had to learn an entirely new professional field in order to take advantage of the economic opportunity. So this is the last slide. You're going to stick this in your brain. Like it or not, we're all trapped into a cycle of lifelong learning. We can't stop upskilling. We can't stop multi-skilling. We can't stop being versatile and adaptable. We have to be willing to jump from one career to another. I had to jump from IBM to the federal government. Right? I had to go from a big corporation to a big government. I jumped from a big government to a big university. Yeah, I jumped from big university to my own businesses. You got to be willing to jump. And you don't worry about that as long as you have confidence in your ability. You don't have to know everything, but you have to be able to learn everything, right? So this is all of this stuff. Now, you guys are going to say, I'm in that box. You are. But you're also in this box, this box. You're less in this box, okay? It's really good to understand the basic science behind modern pharmaceuticals. But, you don't need to know that much, okay? But you do need to know a lot in these areas, okay? And so that's it. All right, Natalia's here, so that means we're finished. Anybody have any comments, questions? Anybody gonna cry because you think you're gonna get an MBA and lose your job? You're not. So enjoy your time here. If you see me anywhere, like the coffee shop, you want to ask questions, need help with anything, let me know. Learning is cool. Learning is cool. Be calm, be confident. It's fun, okay, unless you like stress yourself out. All right, take care.